name's Ava. I'm a Scorpio.
No. What's your last name?
Ava Combs.
What's your other last name?
Ava Baroni.
Ava Baroni Combs? Yes, it was breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child. I want you to tell them the story about how I adopted you. But you still have beautiful parents but you're my child also. Please tell the story.
So,
things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. But when you lose your man.
I was on the streets, and then Papa Combs decided that he would like to be a caring man. So then he saw me and decided to pick me up and said to come inside and play with his kids.
Welcome back to Juicy Pulse, your daily dose of scandal and glamour. Let's spill the tea on today's biggest celebrity stories. Terrence Howard just dropped a bomb, and now it's getting messier by the second. Word is he lost some major evidence linked to him allegedly tracking his adopted daughter Ava. And things are spiraling fast. Everyone thought Terrence had moved on from his drama with Diddy, especially after he claimed Diddy made some bold moves on him. But guess what? Turns out, Terrence might have been holding back a whole lot more than he let slip on that podcast. And now, the feds are making power moves. They've just updated the indictment against Diddy, throwing in 2 brand new charges on top of the already stacked list. The streets are buzzing that Ava is allegedly listed as one of the fresh victims. That alone is wild. But here's where it explodes. Insiders say Ava might be stepping into the courtroom to testify against Diddy. This case is about to turn into a full-blown circus, and all signs are pointing to Terrence possibly being the one to bring the whole empire crashing down. Let's break it down. When Terrence went on that podcast, we all thought he'd already dropped the juiciest tea. Like, what could top the shocking claims about Diddy allegedly exploiting young talent? But Terrence took it a step further, saying Diddy tried to seduce him and reel him into some kind of twisted relationship. This isn't just gossip anymore. It's turning into a storm of secrets, and everybody's about to get hit. During that same explosive conversation, Terrence didn't hold back. He claimed he wasn't the only black man Diddy allegedly tried something shady with. According to Terrence, there's a disturbing pattern going on, and it's been flying under the radar for way too long. He says Diddy specifically targets black men during those infamous freak-off gatherings. But these ain't just wild parties. Terrence painted them as twisted setups. Scenes where Diddy allegedly breaks these men down and strips them of their pride, their power, and their manhood. And he didn't stop there. Terrence hinted that this ain't some isolated thing. Without naming names, he implied that multiple men in the industry have gone through the same nightmare, but kept their mouths shut out of pure fear or shame. The way he told it, Diddy allegedly preys on black men when they're at their most vulnerable. And it's not just some reckless behavior, it's a calculated game that's been running for years. As expected, the internet lost it. People were gagged by these jaw-dropping claims. But just when everyone thought the madness peaked, the whispers started. Insiders began saying Terrence is still holding something even darker. Something so shocking it would shatter the internet the second it drops. What's he hiding? People are already watching and waiting, and it sounds like the worst is yet to come. Terrence stirred up even more chaos when he dropped a cryptic video on Twitter. And trust, it wasn't just for show. In the clip, he hinted that some very powerful people were coming after him, threatening him to keep quiet. But Terrence wasn't backing down. He clapped back with a warning of his own, saying he's ready to expose everything he knows. And just to make it crystal clear he was talking about the Diddy mess, he dropped the #man card, the same term he used on that jaw-dropping podcast episode. Now it looks like Terrence is finally cracking that vault open. Word on the streets is that this next layer of truth is allegedly tied to none other than Diddy's adopted daughter, Ava Baroni, and what really went down behind the scenes. For years, fans have been asking, what happened to Ava? The silence has always been suspicious, but what Terrence is now hinting at, It's straight up chilling. He's not saying everything yet, but fans are starting to piece it together. And many believe Ava might have been one of Diddy's alleged victims. And if that's even halfway true, things are about to get real ugly real fast. Let's rewind to 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic chaos, when Diddy made one of his most unexpected moves yet. Out of nowhere, he introduced a young white girl named Ava Baroni Combs as his adopted daughter. Boom. Just like that, she was suddenly part of the Combs family. He even jumped on Instagram Live, proudly showing her off like a trophy, calling her his own, and smiling for the cameras. The whole thing felt so random, so fast. And because of how sudden it was, most people either overlooked it or forgot it just as quickly. And since then, Ava's name barely came up again. That is, until Diddy's legal drama exploded and the internet started digging everything back up. Now, when he first made that announcement, it came across as a kind-hearted move, adopting a child in the middle of a global crisis when so many kids were in need. Most folks saw it as Diddy stepping up and doing something good, and he got plenty of praise for it at the time. But now, knowing what we know, with all these dark accusations hanging over him, people are rewatching that same video with a whole new lens. What once looked like a touching moment now feels off. Real off. And that noble gesture? Yeah, it's raising way more questions than it ever did before. And honestly, that wasn't the only red flag waving in plain sight. What really had people side-eyeing the whole situation was when Diddy publicly compared his adoption of Ava to Madonna's. Like, seriously? That's a wild move, because Madonna's adoption history has been packed with controversy. Multiple reports have questioned the legal process behind several of her adoptions. And some of the allegations? Straight up disturbing. A few years back, the Ethiopian World Federation even accused Madonna of exploitation, claiming she lured families into giving up their kids with promises of education in the US, only to adopt them without proper consent. So when Diddy chose that moment to say his adoption was similar to hers, people were like, wait, what? Why would he model anything after a situation that's been so publicly messy? That comparison alone had folks whispering. But what's really setting off alarms now is the awkward vibe in that video he posted. Fans are pointing out something strange. Why were Diddy's sons front and center with Ava in the spotlight? If Ava wanted to bond or play, wouldn't it have made more sense for Diddy's daughters to be right there with her? People are starting to question the whole dynamic. And let's just say, the more they watch that video, the weirder it looks. Why just the sons, though? That's what had fans scratching their heads. But it only got more disturbing from there. The most unsettling part? Ava didn't look comfortable at all. Her body language was off. Her expression seemed tense, and viewers picked up on it instantly. It wasn't just awkward. People started wondering if something deeper was going on in that room. And when you consider the history tied to Diddy's sons, yeah, the energy might have been way more than just awkward. Justin was named in a lawsuit involving Lil Rod, and Christian has his own legal mess. So having Ava surrounded by them, without the girls around, made the whole situation feel eerie, like something just wasn't right. But here's what really sent the internet into a frenzy. After that video, Ava practically vanished. Aside from a couple blink-and-you-miss-it moments with Diddy's twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah, she was gone. No more family pics, no more lives, no updates. It was radio silence. And that's weird, because Diddy had her calling him Papa Combs like she was part of the inner circle. So why the sudden disappearance? If she was really brought in as family, wouldn't we be seeing more of her, not less? Fans aren't buying the silence anymore. They want answers, and the questions just keep piling up. Now with all these disturbing allegations bubbling to the surface, from claims of trafficking to mistreatment of women, fans are starting to ask the big question: what really happened to Ava? Her sudden disappearance has lit a fire online, flipping what once looked like a touching adoption story into a straight-up real-life mystery. People aren't buying the fairy tale anymore. They're wondering if something way darker was happening behind the scenes. And just when things couldn't get messier, Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, stepped into the spotlight and spilled everything. According to Gene, Ava wasn't just mistreated, she was used. He claimed the whole adoption was nothing but a PR move, a stunt cooked up to score sympathy points and polish Diddy's image during the pandemic. Gene didn't hold back. He painted a disturbing picture. He said Diddy found a young homeless girl, pulled her into his world under the illusion of adoption, then paraded her around as part of the family, only to drop her completely once the attention faded. According to Gene, Ava was never treated like real family. She was just part of the show. And now that the spotlight's turned, people are finally asking, was this all just a performance? And if so, where is Ava now? All for the cameras, just appearances, behind the scenes? Allegedly, it was all smoke and mirrors. Now, Gene didn't flat out accuse Diddy of harming Ava, but he definitely stirred the pot. He hinted something dark might have gone down, and he wasn't subtle about it either. According to Gene, folks inside the industry already know the truth about who Diddy really is. They've just kept it quiet. And trust? Gene did not hold back. The tea he dropped? Scalding hot. Unfortunately, Gene might be hitting on something real, because Hollywood has a nasty history of turning a blind eye. We've seen it time and time again. R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby. Powerful men protected for years while the ones around them suffered in silence. And remember, in Cassie's lawsuit, she laid it out plain. Diddy was constantly surrounded by people who enabled him, covered for him, or straight up ignored the red flags. So when Gene came out with bombshells, the internet couldn't help but wonder, what's really been happening behind those mansion walls? But here's where it gets especially disturbing. Gene dropped a chilling hint. He suggested Diddy might have had certain videos involving Ava, ones that were allegedly more than just inappropriate. We're talking potentially criminal footage that could change everything if it ever surfaced. Gene even claimed that federal investigators are allegedly hunting down those videos because they believe they exist. That's how serious it's gotten. And guess who might have been ahead of the game this whole time? 50 Cent. Yep. Word is, he's been sitting on insider knowledge about Diddy's dirty laundry long before any receipts ever hit the timeline. For years, 50's been throwing shots, dropping hints, and warning people, but most folks brushed it off. They said it was jealousy, old beef, or just 50 being petty because Diddy didn't sign him back when he was hungry for a break in the industry. And hey, let's keep it real. 50 does hold grudges like it's a sport. He's the king of pettiness, no doubt about it. But still, that doesn't mean he was lying. His feud with Diddy has never cooled off. And don't forget, he's also been beefing with Diddy's longtime DJ, DJ Z, for years. So the hate runs deep. But now, 50's cryptic posts are hitting way harder. He's been dropping some very loaded hints, like when he said, "This is why they put that tape out." People are now looking back at 50's warnings with fresh eyes, and suddenly, everything's starting to click. What else does he know that we don't? They know they can't charge him for what we saw, but they know we can't unsee it. That's the chilling claim from an insider who says 50 Cent allegedly has hard evidence tied to Diddy's alleged abuse of Ava, and that it's about to drop in his upcoming documentary. For those who forgot, 50 announced last year that he was working on a full-blown exposé called Diddy Do It, under his Green Light Gang banner. He didn't hold back, dropping lines like, "If Diddy's smart, he'll file for bankruptcy now," and "I thought he was a billionaire music mogul." That wasn't just trolling, that was a warning. And when 50 said, "Here come the receipts," he meant exactly that. Back then, people were too distracted by Diddy's pile of scandals to really focus on Ava. Her name got lost in the noise. But everything flipped once Terrence Howard stepped in, hinting he knew something big about what happened to her. Suddenly, Ava was back in the center of the storm. And the next thing we knew, the feds updated their indictment against Diddy. The new charges added 2 anonymous victims and laid it out plainly. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. And it gets worse. They claimed Diddy manipulated women into taking part in orchestrated performances of disturbing behavior, with him at the center of it all. Now, people are bracing themselves for what 50 might reveal next. Because if that documentary delivers on its promise, it could blow this case wide open. According to the updated indictment, it wasn't just Diddy, it was a whole operation. The feds laid out that Combs, along with others acting under his orders, made arrangements for women, and even male commercial workers, to be flown out to his location. But it wasn't just travel. They claimed Diddy ensured these women participated by controlling everything, handing out products, manipulating their careers, threatening to cut them off financially, and using pure intimidation to get his way. It didn't stop there. Prosecutors added fresh charges that paint a chilling picture of Diddy's inner circle. They said Combs and his crew, all tied to the Combs enterprise, used his fame, power, and business empire to lure, threaten, and trap women into his orbit, often pretending it was all about love or business. But once they were in, the game changed. The feds say Diddy used force, threats, and coercion to make it happen. And the claims are heavy. They specifically mention 3 women, known only as Female 1, 2, and 3, who were allegedly pushed into commercial acts. These weren't just casual flings. The indictment claims Combs gave them money, career boosts, paid rent, and covered housing expenses to keep them locked in. And in a twist that shocked even seasoned insiders, some of these commercial acts allegedly involved male workers too. And what did Diddy allegedly call these twisted setups? Insiders say he had a specific term for them, one that hasn't been revealed yet. But the silence around that word speaks volumes. These weren't just parties. The feds say Diddy organized full-on freak-offs, elaborate staged performances that he arranged, directed, and allegedly recorded. According to investigators, these weren't random hookups. They were produced events, and Diddy had help. Members of his inner circle, the so-called Combs Enterprise, allegedly helped fly commercial workers across state lines and even internationally just to take part in these disturbing setups. And here's where it gets even darker. Diddy's accused of forcing women to sleep with other men at these exclusive parties, all for money. But before we dive deeper into what the federal investigators have uncovered, let's make one thing very clear. The women involved did not consent to this. The feds are saying Diddy didn't just exploit them. He allegedly coerced them into taking part, then forced them to accept payment afterwards. Why? So he could twist the story and claim it was all voluntary, like they were just getting paid for something they agreed to. A cold, calculated tactic meant to blur the line between consent and control. And what's even worse, this strategy works, especially online. The second these women come forward, people rush to shame them or label them as willing participants. But now, with federal charges piling up and investigators pulling receipts, it's clear this wasn't just wild party behavior. This was something way more sinister. At least in the court of public opinion, these twisted tactics work. They make the victim look complicit, when in reality, she may have been trapped in something she never agreed to. That's what makes the whole thing so chilling. The manipulation is designed to erase the line between coercion and consent, and the public often falls for it. But the indictment laid it all out, and it's damning. According to court documents, from around 2009 to 2018, in the Southern District of New York and other locations, Sean Combs knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and solicited individuals to engage in criminal acts, and even willfully caused it to happen. Specifically, it states that Combs recruited, enticed, and maintained victims, and either directly participated or aided and abetted others in making it happen. And he did it knowing, or recklessly ignoring, that the victims were being forced through fraud, manipulation, and coercion. But it doesn't end there. The document goes on to say that between 2021 and 2024, Combs allegedly continued this same pattern. Again, recruiting, enticing, and soliciting individuals, knowing full well that force, threats, and fraud would be used to make them comply. And once again, it accuses him of aiding and abetting in these acts, or even directing them himself. What's being described here isn't just scandal, it's systemic, calculated exploitation that spans over a decade. And it's finally being dragged into the light. The indictment didn't hold back. It states that Combs recruited, enticed, transported, and maintained a second individual. He allegedly attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused her to engage in commercial acts, all while knowing or ignoring that she was involved because of force, fraud, or coercion. The exact same pattern for victim 2.
And now, the streets are talking, saying Ava might be that second name on the Fed's updated list. With all the buzz around her sudden disappearance and the shady history surrounding Diddy, it wouldn't be a shock if investigators decided to dig deeper and connect the dots.
It's all looking way too familiar and way too calculated. The whispers are growing louder, and fans are convinced the truth about Ava's involvement is about to surface, if it hasn't already. The internet's in full detective mode, and the feds? They've clearly been working behind the scenes. It's getting messier by the minute, and nobody knows what bombshell could drop next. But here's the thing. The trial is coming. It got delayed, but not for long. And when that courtroom opens up, don't be surprised if everything we thought we knew gets flipped upside down. Brace yourselves, because if what's coming is even half as wild as the rumors, we haven't seen anything yet. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest tea. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll catch you in the next video.